Okay, so firstly, we clarify story guideline. Then there's actually lots of little snips and bits which I need to fill you all in on, so let's hope I remember everything. Okay. So they come back to Hastinapur. They're living in a city very close by, which is called Upalap something, and walking distance. So basically they back, the 14 years are over, and the Thrashtra sends the message first. Then Yudhishthira sends a reply via Vidura. Well, actually, it's Sanjaya. Sanjaya brings the message to Yudhishthira about don't fight. Duryodhana is never going to change who he is, and you've always been nice, so just sacrifice yourself. That message. The Yudhishthira sends a message back, which is give us the 5 villages. And the snippet of information on this that was really cool was that it's not that Yudhishthira was saying, just give me 5 villages. It was code. And this is why if you don't read, we wouldn't even know that. And Vidur is the one who picks up on it. And Vidur is the one explaining to the Thrashtra that the 5 villages, because he lists them out, which 5 villages he wants. So the first village is the village that Bhim was poisoned in. The second village was the one where they tried to burn them in the House of Flax. Indraprastha, the kingdom that was given to them before it became grant, right? So like when Yudhishthira was supposed to become king, they said, no, you're only getting half the kingdom. And they were giving this really very barren, very what was considered not valuable land. And then the 4th village was the village that they played the game of dice in. And I forget what the 5th village was. So basically what Yudhishthira was saying is not just give me 5 villages and I'll be happy. He was like, these 5 villages is to remind you of all the things that you have done wrong. And so how could you send this message? And he even says, I'm highly disappointed because I've always looked on you as an elder. And he says something really nice about impartiality. Like true leaders are fair and not partial. So the messages are very long, and it's incredible that messengers used to be able to repeat these messages verbatim, because 1, they're super long, and 2, they use such cryptic language and such descriptions and such insinuations. And I'm repeating the Mahabharata after I read it, and I give y'all the gist of it and my version of it with the masala, and I change the language completely. And of course, it's translation also from a different language. But these messengers, to sit and remember that they said tat, 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 tat. Sanjaya repeats the Thrashtra's message verbatim because you can't get it wrong. This is the king's message too, and then a war is going to happen. You can't get the message wrong. Yudhishthira, and imagine the capacity of our mind, memory power. And if it's just 1 or 2 lines, we can remember it. But this was 3 pages worth of messages. Because Yudhishthira sends, so the Thrashtra's message comes, so the Yudhishthira's message comes back, and Yudhishthira says something about a leader being impartial, which in itself is such a wonderful. So this is why Mahabharata is also so well known for being able to teach qualities of leadership, teach qualities of management, teach qualities of diplomacy, teach qualities of. And so this would be one of those lines. Like if you're taking a Mahabharata course on management or leadership, this would be one of the lines. A good leader is impartial. Ditto words of Yudhishthira. And then how many of us are? How many of us are impartial? Like even in a work scenario, we tend to favor one colleague over another colleague. Bosses might favor one staff over another staff. Sometimes I've seen it even in households where there's 2 helpers, right? And one gets, and then the other one plays out. And it's so interesting. Because of course you don't want to be the unfavored one. Even with parenting, sometimes a parent has a favorite. It's so causes such disarray in the minds of actually all the children. So even if you're the favorite child, it's so much pressure on you to be that favorite child. And also to make the other siblings not hate you and not jealous of you. It's because you have to live with the siblings more than you have to live with the parents, right? And then, of course, if you're the unfavored child, you feel this incredible sense of injustice. That's going to be true for the workplace. That's going to be true in a classroom setting if a teacher has a favorite. And so because I teach children so often, it's really, as a teacher, having a favorite in a classroom, it's actually opposed to the dharma of teaching. You can't do your job well if you have a favorite. And so I think that's true for across the board, not just teachers. Because then, I was mentioning this, I think, in the youth class yesterday. In life, one of the things we have to learn is it's not personal. But when you have a favorite, it's personal. You yourself are making it personal. When you're thinking about things, you are thinking about it personally. The other person might not take it personally, but you yourself having a favorite makes things personal. And when it's personal, so much feeling, so much emotion, so much expectation, so much disappointment, so much. So a good leader is impartial. So this was Yudhishthira's message. So and I know even I said it, like Yudhishthira was trying not to avoid having the war. And so he said, you said don't fight, so give us just 5 villages as a way to say, look, I'll do my bit, but you're still not going to do your bit. And even though that still holds true, actually he was this, and this is another thing. Yudhishthira's level of intelligence and subtlety to say something in code. Yeah. And then actually this is supposed to be kings and diplomats. Like, so I said, Mahabharata is key for diplomacy, to learn public relationships, international relationships. That is a skill set. It's a this is one of the reasons why we know Yudhishthira is going to be a good king, because he has the skill set of being able to say something so subtly. But the Dhritarashtra didn't understand it. So again, going back to qualities of what makes a good king. He didn't understand it, but Vidur understood it. And Vidur always was the one. Vidur was the one ruling the kingdom. The Dhritarashtra was figurehead. Bhishma was ruling the kingdom, and then Vidur took over ruling the kingdom. The Dhritarashtra never actually ruled. He was literally always just a figurehead, because he didn't have this ability of understanding when a message came. Also, his message that he sent, not very kingly. Right? Sacrifice yourself even though we have been so wretched to you. It's like, how is that a kingly message? So a lot of the Mahabharata is recognizing all of this and understanding this, what is dharma? So what is dharma here? When we see this back and forth, is the dharma of a king is one who has grace and eloquence and intelligence and the ability to say something with intelligence and skill. And so the other king should have the equal amount of intelligence and skill to understand it. Not everyone's going to have every talent. Like Bhim definitely does not have this talent. But that's okay. Bhim doesn't have to have the talent. He's not king. And this is where the whole caste system works, or the whole Swadharma system works, is that we will have our skill sets and then depending on that skill set and that personality type, will fit somewhere. And it will work really well because our skill set and our personality type will fit that job. The problem only happens when we want a job where we don't fit. the personality type or the skill set. So that was true for Dhritarashtra, and it's true for Duryodhana, because Duryodhana is not even listening to the message. Never mind not answering it or understanding it. He's not even listening to the message. Now, in terms of being a king and in terms of being a leader, even if you don't like the person, you need to be able to listen. Even if it's just to have a comeback, you need to be able to listen. But of course, good leadership means you listen and you actually appreciate what's being said. You see their skill set and then you form your technique accordingly. Dhritarashtra did none of this. Okay? I'm not even saying Dhritarashtra had to like him to be a good king. Just the skill set of being able to listen, assess, judge, and then strategize. None of that. So now Yudhishthira sent this message, but when Sanjaya delivered Dhritarashtra's message, Yudhishthira said he has a message in reply. Arjuna got up and said he has a message in reply. And Arjuna's message was, please remember that Bhim will fulfill his vow. I will fulfill my vow. Nakula said, so all these vows. And he reiterated, it's very long vows. But basically Bhim's vow is he will kill all 100 Kauravas. Arjuna's vow is he will kill Karna. Sahadev's vow is he will kill Shakuni. And Nakula said he would kill Shakuni's son, I think it was. The vows. And they were a little bit more descriptive of that. Is that some of it has been masala added through the TV shows. It's not actually written in Mahabharata. But it does says that Bhim will drink Dushashan's blood. That's actually written. Why would you want to drink it? I don't know. But I guess in that thing of anger, I guess you say what you say when you're angry, right? So Arjuna reiterates all what happened in the game of dice and all the vows that were taken. And here the message he sends back to the Dhritarashtra is, don't forget we made these vows. Don't forget we're going to keep them. Then Bhim gets up. And this is interesting. Bhim says, even I have a message. No, actually not here. Bhim doesn't say not here. I think they do. Some of the others also send messages to the Dhritarashtra. So that got delivered. So the Dhritarashtra sent message via Sanjaya. Sanjaya goes back, delivers the message. Now Yudhishthira and all of them convene and say, we're sending Krishna. Then Krishna is gone. Krishna meets Vidur's family. All this we've already done, so I'm just doing timeline. He comes to the court and he's talking in the court. He tells them, you all have not guided him properly and it's your fault. So Bhishmacharya gives the whole lowdown about how we should not fight the war. Tell the Duryodhana to give back the kingdom. Then it's Dronacharya's turn, gives the whole lowdown, tell the Dhritarashtra. At this point, Duryodhana is listening to all of this, all the elders telling him, give back the kingdom. Then finally, the Dhritarashtra tells Krishna, we've been trying to tell him, but he's not listening to us. Maybe he'll listen to you. So Krishna looks at Duryodhana and says, give back the kingdom and avoid this war. And Duryodhana's reply is, I don't know why you're making such a big fuss. Yudhishthira knew what he was getting into when he went for the game of dice. He did it knowingly and of his free will. So I deserve the kingdom. And Krishna says, you cheated but he knew that. Like, there's this complete sense of not even feeling any bit of remorse. So for some reason they had a break. It must have been tea time or something. And Karna. I'm going to talk a lot about Karna today, so I'm emphasizing this. Karna tells Duryodhana, Krishna has won over all the elders and is going to really make it difficult for us to fight the war. So we should just capture him and throw him in jail. Duryodhana thinks that's a great idea. Dushashan goes to get the army to capture Krishna and throw him in jail. This is very cool about the Mahabharata. You think we are so sophisticated in today's world by having CIA and FBI and spies and counter spies and double agents. They had them all there in the Mahabharata time as well. So remember, Duryodhana had asked for Krishna's army. Krishna's entire army is sitting in Hastinapur. Krishna has come with Satyaki, who's his main minister in charge of the army. Spies come and tell Satyaki that Duryodhana is planning to throw Krishna in jail. Satyaki comes into the courtroom, whispers in Krishna's ear, they're planning to throw you into jail. This is the scheme that they've planned. If you go here, they'll catch you. But your army has been summoned. They're all waiting outside. Give the word, they'll all be killed instantly. Krishna's whole army is in Hastinapur. What is Duryodhana thinking? Like if you try and hurt Krishna in Hastinapur, Krishna's army is there. Duryodhana really didn't think things through. Duryodhana didn't think things through. He did not have the right temperament to be the king. Karna? What was Karna thinking? Karna is intelligent enough to know. He can think things through. Yet he was the one that suggested this. So in the court now, Krishna starts laughing and tells Bhishmacharya, Dronacharya, Dhritarashtra, Duryodhana has planned to capture me. The whole thing is, and Dhritarashtra for the first time ever loses it and tells Duryodhana that having a son like you has been the worst sin of my life. Something to that effect. First time ever you see Dhritarashtra call Duryodhana a sinner and be truly, completely embarrassed by Duryodhana's behavior. And Dhritarashtra, I should have kept the book with me. The dialogue's amazing. Dhritarashtra says something to the effect of, it would be easier to catch the wind than to confine Krishna. It would be easier to hold the sun than to hold on to Krishna. It would be easier to carry the weight of the entire earth than to catch Krishna. Wow. This is something the rishis would say, because we know it to be true. Right? There's that whole incident in the Bhagavatam where Krishna is a little boy and he's running away from Mother Yashoda. And Mother Yashoda is so tired and so upset and so like this, Krishna just never listens to me. She tries to take a rope and she tries to tie him. And the rope is 2 inches short. So she takes another rope of that same size and ties it to the first rope and tries to tie Krishna. Should work, right? It's 2 inches short. She ties another rope and it becomes even longer. And when she goes around to tie Krishna, it's 2 inches short. At which point she starts crying. Like the first time in my life, I want to punish this kid and I can't even tie him. Like how useless a mother am I? When she starts crying, Krishna smiles. Krishna smiles. When Krishna smiles, it's very significant, and he smiles a lot. But every time he smiles, it's for a different reason. And she's able to tie the rope. Until Krishna allowed himself to be tied, can't tie him. Can't contain him. Because remember, he's infinite. How do you tie infinite? How do you catch infinite? How do you hold on to infinite? It's just not possible. Who's saying this? The Dhritarashtra. It's easier to catch the wind easier to hold on to the sun. We cannot hold on to the sun. Even sunlight, we can't hold on to, right? Interesting how we can know things and still be so deluded. Because it's the Thrashtra that's saying this. And we have seen this entire Mahabharata, just how deluded the Thrashtra is. The minute Duryodhana does, he gives him what he wants. You know, like those parents who have a baby and they're not even allowed to cry and then they immediately pick them up. The Thrashtra is like that with Duryodhana. So amongst all this screaming, Duryodhana says, pretty much to the effect of, there's nothing you can say. To stop me. I will fight this war. Now, before Krishna came, Yudhishthira tells Krishna, but whatever cost, avoid the war. Bhim gets up. Yeah, it's Bhim. And says, yes, Krishna, at whatever cost, avoid the war. At which point, Krishna looks at Bhim with this expression and says, what does he say to Bhim? Something to the effect of, so it's fine that you don't kill the 100 Kauravas, and it's fine what they did to Draupadi. And then very soon, Bhim starts screaming and shouting and saying, of course, and to the effect that Krishna says, welcome back. Like, what happened to you momentarily? Like you saying, at any cost, let there be peace. And I'm mentioning this specifically because Krishna's reaction to Bhim was very distinct. It's almost like, this is not your personality, Bhim, stop it. But also, when Bhim says that, Draupadi was livid. When Yudhishthira said it, Draupadi was fine. Because Yudhishthira always says it. But when Bhim said it, you were the first one to stand up and make a vow that they will pay for what they've done to me. Now, how can you be asking for peace? And so, even though it's not explicitly said, it's almost like, and this is such an amazing thing about when you read the Mahabharata. It's like Krishna remembers everyone. He's talking to Yudhishthira and Bhim, but he remembers Draupadi. He remembers, like everyone. Like all through this chapter, when you see, he'll remember everyone. So, what was Arjuna's message? Arjuna was ready for war. So, Krishna, you're going to talk peace, but there's going to be a war. It was more a matter of fact. Sahadev, who doesn't say much of the entire Mahabharata, gets up and says, what nonsense. There should not be peace. There should 100% be a war. Each one of them was their own personality. And Krishna leaves, coming to Hastinapur, saying, I will do the very best I can. But get ready. There's going to be a war. And so then we see him here at the court. He's all the elders have told Duryodhana, don't fight, including the Drashta. At this point, when Duryodhana is so flippant and the Drashta doesn't know what to do, that's when he called Gandharva, which you all know about. After Gandharva tells Duryodhana in no uncertain words, you will die because what you're doing is wrong. Duryodhana says in reply, how can I die? I have Bhishma, I have Drona, I have such great warriors. You're all just making a fuss over nothing. Was the mood of Duryodhana this whole time was, you're all just making a fuss over nothing. I have it all sorted. I have a great army. I have the bigger army. I have warriors like Bhishma and Drona. I'll be fine. At that point, Krishna gives Vishwarupa Darshan to try and make Duryodhana see that you're not going to be fine. That the Lord himself is on the other side. You are 100% going to lose this battle. And then Krishna is about to leave because you can't do more than give Vishwarupa Darshan. Really, you can't top that. And Duryodhana says something very interesting. He comes up to Krishna and he says, I'm sorry. I'm not able to give you what you want. And it almost sounds like he's sincere. And it's interesting that how we can be so fixated on a notion of wanting to do something, or wanting to accomplish something, or wanting to reach somewhere. We can know it's not the best route to go. It's going to harm other people. We can be sorry that we're doing it, but still so determined to do it. How can we be sorry and still so determined to do it? This is that dichotomy within us. Like this is that split in our personality. And the Duryodhana split in his personality was immense, which is why he had no power, right? When we dissipated, we don't have power. When we split, we don't have power. And actually, when you're reading Mahabharata, it doesn't seem like he has a split personality. He seems like just 100% selfish. But then there'll be these few moments where you see, like when he was caught by the Yaksha and Arjuna and Bhim saved him, he went into this depression of, I'm such a horrible person. And then here too, when Krishna is leaving, he actually apologizes to Krishna. And then this is another huge thing. So many people will quote the Mahabharata because they've heard the story and they've heard satsangs on it, and they'll give examples on it. And even recently somebody quoted this to me. One of the things about the Mahabharata, so there was management techniques in Mahabharata, and then there's family guidelines from the Mahabharata. And it's that your elders, when they give advice, it's always for your best interest. Unfortunately, it's usually the elder that's saying this to the youngsters. So the youngsters don't want to listen. But this is the scene where it's really what's the word? Evident. So the elder here is Bhishmacharya. He's giving such good advice. Duryodhana is not listening. Drona, which is the guru, is giving advice. Duryodhana is not listening. Father and mother have both given advice. He's not listening. Vidur has been giving advice his whole life. He never listened the whole life. But Vidur's a well-wisher. He's a well-wisher even to Duryodhana. Sometimes interesting that we don't see our well-wishers as our well-wishers. We see them as our enemy because what we want to do is different from what they're telling us to do. So I want to do something, they're telling me not to do it, they're my enemy. Whereas actually they're not at all my enemy. They're my well-wisher trying to help me not to do something that I myself will in time regret, or something that's going to have such a dire consequence, not just for me, but for everyone around me. And this is this incredible delusion that comes into our minds, that we can't even see our well-wishers as our well-wishers. And who did Duryodhana see as his well-wishers? Karna. But more than that, Shakuni, Dushasana. And I'm going to really dwell on this. Well-wisher would try and save your life. Well-wisher wouldn't take you into a war that's going to kill you. This is no-brainer, right? If I wish for your best, keep you alive, not take you to your death. Also a painful death, because Bhim's curse was to break all his bones. It's going to be a very painful death. Krishna leaves very sad. So like I said, the whole time he's smiling. Although there was one point in the court where Satyaki gave Krishna the message that Duryodhana is trying to capture you and throw you in jail. But Krishna starts laughing. Now from the description of the laugh here, it's not your ha ha ha. It was it was kind of like a threat. And then when Krishna spoke after that, there was rage. There was firmness, sternness, and merciless warnings of what will happen, not what could happen, what will happen. And there was also caution. But it was a very stern, strong voice, where he's telling Duryodhana, if this war happens, all of you are going to die. It's this very serious question, which we don't see too often. Usually he's smiling and up to something. Even in the Mahabharata, usually he's smiling and he's up to something. So when Yudhishthira gave the message, smiled. Yes, that's Yudhishthira. Bhim said that line about finding peace, he smiled. And teased Bhim until he was angry again. And oh, sorry. So the 5 brothers all told Krishna what they wanted, and at the end, Draupadi said, right, don't even for a moment consider not getting revenge for what they did to me. I will not tolerate it. There's only so much you can take. She's taken a lot. So remember, it wasn't just the game of dice. After that, there was Jayadratha. After that, there was that king's brother. Plus, the whole time she had to be a maid. But, she's She's reached her threshold. All of us have threshold. Our spiritual journey is to increase our threshold until we get moksha, when we become infinite. Then threshold is also infinite. For as long as we're limited beings, we have a limitation. And there'll only be that much we can endure. And we should know what our threshold is, because we shouldn't get to it. Because once we reach our threshold, then it's like this. Then it's Draupadi saying, kill them all. That's what will happen to each one of us when we reach our threshold. So the better we know ourselves, the better we know our thresholds, don't get there. Before you get to threshold, do whatever you need to do. So endure till you can endure before you become mean and revengeful. And so when Draupadi says this, Yudhishthira tells Draupadi, and Yudhishthira is the only one that can say this. Nobody else would have been able to get away with saying this when she was so angry. No happiness can come out of actions of vengeance. You will get your vengeance, Draupadi, but it won't bring you happiness. And Yudhishthira says, fight the war for dharma, not for vengeance. But Draupadi had reached her threshold. She wanted vengeance. And Yudhishthira's capacity to endure is so much more. And Draupadi sincerely tried to endure with him. But Yudhishthira's capacity is really high. Most people can't meet Yudhishthira's capacity. Arjuna was able to because he was doing tapas, getting astras. He was still living his Swadharma. Nakula and Sahadev were also still living their Swadharma. Draupadi wasn't. She wasn't living her Swadharma. She was enduring and enduring and enduring. And so she had reached her threshold. But also Krishna had promised her. So she had that to hold on to. And so Krishna's going back to the Pandavas after talking to the Duryodhana and the Kauravas, and war is going to happen. And he is really, really sad. So we saw devotee Krishna in Vidur's house, literally in the morning. We saw Krishna trying his very best to avoid the war in the court. We saw stern Krishna. We saw Vishwarupa Krishna. We see really sad Krishna, all in the span of one day. And this is the thing about Mahabharata, Bhagavatam. You get to see flavors of the Lord. And why is Krishna sad when he's leaving? Because he knows they're all going to die. And he has really done everything possible. Showing the Vishwarupa Darshan is him doing everything possible to avoid the war. And before we move further, now he will take Karna with him on the chariot. And one of the reasons he takes Karna with him on the chariot is to tell Karna who he is. And that is also so that he is doing everything possible to avoid the war. So you see now Krishna leaving, and he takes Karna by the hand. So he's holding Karna's hand, like you hold a friend's hand, and takes Karna into the chariot with him. And they drive a fair distance. Satyaki is driving the chariot, and then he tells Satyaki to stop, and Karna and Krishna are walking a safe distance away from Satyaki. And the first thing that Krishna says to Karna, and this is what's interesting about Karna. Literally an hour ago, 2 hours ago, he was telling Duryodhana, throw Krishna in jail. And now it's Krishna and Karna, and he's so sweet. Like, he's the nicest guy. You're reading this conversation thinking, like, I want to hang with Karna, like when you're reading this conversation, but then how he flips like this. And so Karna and Duryodhana are both incredible examples of the company you keep. Because if you remember Karna when he had the conversation with Indra also, even Indra loved him so much. Even there he was so nice. And then you put him next to Duryodhana and he says, put Krishna in jail. He says, strip Draupadi in court. He says, what Draupadi? He says all these horrible things when he's next to Duryodhana. And here he is sitting under a tree with Krishna and they're talking so nicely, like they've been friends forever. But this is the first time in the entire Mahabharata where Krishna and Karna are talking. So how they have this closeness is also quite amazing. How do they have this closeness? A, Krishna really is impartial. He really will just love anyone and everyone. 2, Karna adores Krishna. Who knew? He didn't show it. Why? He was sitting next to Duryodhana. Take him away from Duryodhana, he adores Krishna. So the first thing Krishna says to him is, Duryodhana doesn't know what is right and wrong. You do. Why aren't you stopping this? And so Karna is going to repeat this 2-3 times. I'm only going to say it twice. There was that, what was it? Graduation ceremony where the Pandavas were showing their skills. Karna walked in. He said, I want to show, I want to fight. They said, no, you're the son of a charioteer. Duryodhana recognized that he wasn't and said, I'll give him a kingdom, let him come. And at that time, he was so grateful. He asked Duryodhana, how can I ever pay you? And Duryodhana said, I want nothing, just your heart. And so Karna tells Krishna, in that day, on that day, I gave him my heart. So Krishna is quiet for a moment and looks at him and says, the debt, like when you owe someone, the debt of gratitude is indeed beautiful and hard to repay. But this war will end in all of your dying. Are you really paying back your debt of gratitude to him by taking him into this war? Why don't you stop him? So then again, I can't go against Duryodhana. He's got his heart set on it. A good friend would, support his friend. Then at this point, Krishna realizes Karna's just not getting that a good friend wouldn't support his friend if they're doing the wrong thing. He says it in that many words. Karna is not agreeing. So he says, have you ever wondered who your mother is? So this completely Of course, Karna is wounded. And so the minute he hears that statement, he's frozen. Time freezes. He doesn't move. Then he answered, no, but I have worked out that she is of noble blood. She's probably a princess who lived in a palace near the river. She probably was too embarrassed by my birth, and that's why she put me into the river. And by now, she must be married and have other children. And Krishna replies, you're right. She was a princess. She had you very young, and so could not bear the public humiliation. Oh, sorry, Karna says one more thing. By now, she would have had other children and would have forgotten about him. That was his last line. So Krishna's replies, you're right. She is a princess. She had you very young. She couldn't bear the public humiliation. She does have 5 other children. But you're wrong, Karna. She hasn't forgotten about you. Even though she has 5 other children, her heart is empty because she regrets what she did to you. 5 other children already, something in Karna's head. But so much emotions, right? And so he says, you know who my mother is? Of course, Krishna knows who his mother is. So he says, you are the son of Kunti. The Pandavas are your brothers. Poor Karna. It was like he was struck by lightning and thunder and everything all at that same point. And he says, and who is my father? Because Kunti means Pandavas, right? And Krishna answers, the son. And he's like, what? I'm a son of a Devata and a Kshatriya, and I've had to live my whole life being rejected. I've had to endure and suffer all these difficulties. Then Krishna says, I'll take you with me. I'll tell you this truth. And you know you're this truth. You don't need me to tell you this. He will make you king. That Arjuna, who you have such animosity with, will drive your chariot. Bhim, Nakul, Sahadev, and I, Krishna includes himself, will walk behind your chariot. Come, Karna. Everything you ever wanted to be recognized as a Kshatriya, you will have. Pandavas approve of you, praise you. You will have. Come with me now. Krishna is giving Karna everything. Krishna is giving Karna the kingdom. Not Duryodhana and Yudhishthira. He's giving it to Karna as Kunti's firstborn. Karna says, no, and starts crying. Repeats, I cannot betray Duryodhana. Interesting what we want. His whole life, what did Karna want? Recognition. He's getting it. He doesn't take it. Interesting also When we want something, we pray to God. Gimme, 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 gimme. Who's giving it to him? God. He's not taking it. Please know I'm not talking about karma. We also tell God, gimme, 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 gimme. He always gives. Always. He doesn't say no. Duryodhana went to him, he gave. This is Karna, who 2 hours ago said, throw Krishna in jail. He's giving Karna what Karna wants. God will give. Do we really want it? We think we want it. I can't think of everyday examples, but I've seen it so often in people's lives. Things they say they want, which is right there, within arm's reach. And then some self-sabotage, some petty grievance, some personality weakness. It's not that God doesn't give, huh? He gives. He gives every single one of us. He gives. The conversation is a bit longer than this. But finally, Karna tells Krishna, I ask you for a boon. Krishna says yes. Now, usually, you don't say yes until you know what it is. Reading this bit of the Mahabharata, I was like, what did you just say yes to, Krishna? And why did you just say yes? I guess Krishna knows everyone's heart. What was the boon he asked for? Don't tell Yudhishthira. So Krishna says, why? If Yudhishthira knows I am his brother, he won't fight me. And you're right. He will give me the kingdom. If he gives me the kingdom, I will give it to Duryodhana. But Yudhishthira should be the king. Who's saying this? Karna. Karna is saying Yudhishthira should be the king. Don't give me the kingdom because I'll give it to Duryodhana and Duryodhana shouldn't be the king. Why is he saying this? Because he's with Krishna. And he has this much clarity, this much nobility. In fact, Krishna praises Karna more than he has praised anyone else in the Mahabharata. Because during this conversation, Krishna tells Karna, you are definitely a Pandava. You are as wise as Yudhishthira. You are as affectionate as Bhima. You are skillful as Arjuna. You are as good looking as Nakula. Oh, sorry, not wise as Yudhishthira. You are as dharmic as Yudhishthira and as wise as Sahadev. This much praise Krishna gives Karna. And this line in the Mahabharata is where that, what's her name, got the idea for Palace of Illusions. Because Draupadi in her boon to Shiva had said, I want a husband who is dharmic. Actually, she said strong, not affectionate. Here he says affectionate. Skill, famous. He says skilled, yeah. Good looking and wise. And Shiva said there's no one such person and gave her 5 husbands. But Krishna is saying all those qualities in one person, Karna. It's not that Karna had all qualities in full measure, because we have seen it was his idea that Draupadi be stripped in the court. It was his idea to put Krishna in prison. So, can't really compare to Yudhishthira. Affectionate as Bhim we can give. Skillful as Arjuna also we can give. Good looking, I don't know, must be if Krishna says. We didn't see them, must be, right? Wise, can't be wise. Because if Krishna is giving you advice and you don't take it, you can't be wise. It was Krishna's compassion that he called Karna wise. Capacity to be wise. Implementation of wise wasn't there. Only capacity to be wise was there. He knew not to give kingdom to Duryodhana. Wise. Why didn't he stop Duryodhana? Like, this is everyone's biggest problem with Karna. If Karna had told Duryodhana, don't fight, there was hope of Duryodhana listening. If Karna said, I won't fight with you, Duryodhana wouldn't have fought. His entire strength was Karna's fighting with him. Karna is as good as Arjuna. That was his entire strength. And then, Karna says to Krishna, why have you told me now? Indra took my kavacha, the protection. You've taken my hatred. I didn't have my kavacha to protect me, but my hatred for the Pandavas kept me strong. You've taken that away. How can I hate my brothers? Krishna, this is a dirty trick you played. Karna says those words. Then he says, why? Why are you telling me now? Please listen to Krishna's answer. Krishna's answer is, I don't want you to die. If you fight this war, you will die. Firstly, your guru's curse, the Brahmana's curse. You no longer have your kavacha and your kunda. And most of all, you'll be fighting against me. Karna says, I know I would. I know it's Arjuna who's going to kill me. But it is not really Arjuna that's going to kill me. This is where the wise Karna, you can see. Kurukshetra is a sacrifice, a yagna. Yagna is considered a sacrifice. You are offering all the Kauravas into death. Arjuna is just your spoon. Karna is saying, he knows exactly what's going to happen. He tells Krishna, I know how to interpret dreams. I have already seen Yudhishthira drinking payasam from a golden cup, which apparently represents kingdom. I've seen Bhim standing on a tower, which represents victory. I have seen Arjuna, all these symbols. He goes through all the symbols he has dreamt about. He knows exactly that they're all going to die in the war. He knows he's going to die in the war. And so once again, Krishna says, so stop this war. He replies, I can't. I cannot go against Duryodhana. This is the difference between love and attachment. If I love you, I will tell you what is best for you, even if you hate me. If I'm attached to you, I tell you what you want to hear. At the end of my yoga class, the teacher usually reads a quote out to me. Today she read out a quote of Osho, that you can be both materialistic and spiritual at the same time. And she looked up at me and I said, this Osho, he just tells people what they want to hear. She's like, it's not true? Of course it's not true. I wanted it to be true. I'm like, yeah, that's why he said it. When we want other people to like us, we will say what they want us to say. That's not for their good. It doesn't help them be better people. It doesn't really strengthen them. Karna actually did have very many beautiful qualities. Otherwise, Krishna wouldn't praise him. Krishna wouldn't be holding his hand saying, I want you to live. This is when he said, you have dharma, you have this, you have this, you have this. Krishna was sincerely trying to say, I love you, I'm trying to save you. Karna understood that to be true. He rejected Krishna and chose Duryodhana. It's almost worse than Duryodhana's choice of choosing the army over Krishna. Karna chooses a dharma knowing it's a dharma. Somebody who is deluded and doesn't know it's a dharma, they don't know. Karna knew. He says, don't give me the kingdom, because Duryodhana shouldn't be king. He knew. So, what is it that we really want in life? We claim we want things. Duryodhana wanted kingdom. Even Duryodhana knows he's going to die in this battle. Duryodhana says, I will die in this battle. Yudhishthira will get the kingdom. He knows. Yeah. It's interesting. It's so, so incredibly interesting. A part of us can know. The rest of us just don't listen. It's this divide in our personality. Duryodhana's divide, Karna's divide. That's why it's a dharma. If you look at Arjuna, so it's always Karna versus Arjuna. Unfortunately, even in terms of personality. Karna is skillful, Arjuna is skillful. Karna gets advice from Krishna. Arjuna also gets advice from Krishna. Karna doesn't take it. Arjuna listens implicitly. Implicitly. Well, a little bit here and there he wavers because he's emotional, but listens. He hesitates, but he listens. And he doesn't hesitate because he doesn't trust Krishna. It's because he's overwhelmed with emotions. And the only time he actually hesitated was to kill Bhishmacharya. Otherwise, everything else he listened. Not now, from beginning. Okay? Even when he wanted to marry Subhadra, Krishna said, do X, Y, Z. He did X, Y, Z. So this blessings from our elders. Yudhishthira, Arjuna, and Pandavas. Elders give advice, they listen. Even when the Dhritarashtra gave, before now, this last message they didn't listen to, but earlier when he gave, they listened. Even though they knew he wasn't well intended. Kauravas, elders give advice, don't listen. Speak back. Want to throw them in jail. It's also said, because Pandavas had the blessings of the elders, they won. Kauravas didn't listen, and therefore, it's not that the elders didn't bless them. You can't get the blessings when you don't listen. They lose. And here too, Karna versus Arjuna. Never mind Pandavas versus Kauravas. Arjuna is remembered, adored, worshipped because we worship the Bhagavad Gita. His backing of elders, guru, parents, Krishna. Our greatest strength is not our skill. Karna had as much skill as Arjuna. What was Arjuna's greatest strength? Backing of parents, guru, in this case, Krishna. Krishna is backing all of us. Parents, guru. They'll also bless. Parents and guru will bless. No guru worth their salt won't bless. Parents sometimes. But most parents will bless. Then how come we're not getting it? I'm listening. Okay. Actually, this bit goes on a bit longer. I think the last time I told this story, I cried. So this time I tried to be controlled. The hard bit still to come. So far, he's only met Krishna. Next time Krishna and Karna meet is not as sweet. This incident of Krishna and Karna is Very sweet. Any questions? We all have a threshold of tolerance.
Sometimes though, it's like some people in particular or some situations get us annoyed and we're more than normal. So is that us just being like very, because we already dislike those things from before. So it's us being inobjective, because threshold by definition is just one level, not different from different.
Threshold by definition is just one level. Okay. I don't know if I agree with that, but okay. But all of us have different thresholds, so they're different levels.
Yeah.
So you're saying when I have a threshold, which is a unpick level, certain things get to me quicker. So two reasons that can happen, that certain things get to me quicker. One could be that the same thing has happened many times before, and already the level is quite high. So this one event already gets me to threshold. Or it could be that this particular event is linked into my strongest desire, my strongest attachment, my strongest insecurity. And so it fills up with much more emotional charge than something which is not as strong a desire or stronger insecurity. For example, let's say I'm very insecure about my ability to present myself in my class, but I'm not so insecure about my singing, right? This is just example per se. So if somebody tells me, oh, you're such a terrible singer, Swamiji, please don't sing, because people have said this to me, I'll be like, I know. Then maybe 3-4 people will say it. I know. Then maybe Guruji says it, I'll be like, oh, and I'll cry. So it took me long to get to threshold. And also it was Guruji more emotional. Guruji's never said anything to me. This is example. But because deeper need to be a good teacher, if somebody says your classes are horrible, I never want to attend them again, only one person and I can get to threshold. So it depends on how deep that desire is or how deep that insecurity is. I can get to threshold faster. Or like I said, it could be build up, build up, build up, build up. I've not dealt with the build up. And so something, just one comment gets me to threshold. And that's what I was saying. Don't let that happen. The minute there's build up, deal with build up. Go to gym, then to a friend, go figure out, do something for yourself, feed your soul, then come back threshold. You've emptied, so you can take more. Don't even let yourself get to like 80% of threshold. Make sure you offload already by 60% of threshold. Offloading is doing things like exercise, japa, talking to people, listening to satsang and introspecting and working things out, having conversations if needed, but sometimes not needed. Sometimes it is, right? Sometimes if it's a really good relationship, you can say, maybe I misunderstood you, but I was really hurt about that. And then they can say, oh, no, but you really did annoy me that day. And I'll be like, but why? And we can talk it out and we can get back to normal. Sometimes no need to have conversation because it will just aggravate it. So, but whatever is needed to offload, we should offload. So if you can't offload with the person by having a conversation, then we find other ways to offload. Japa, exercise, therapy, feel good factors like spa days. It gives you more to deal with, whatever you have to deal with. I've given this example very many times. Early days of Hong Kong, when it was stressful, I was much younger, more easily stressed. Hikes. So because the hike was free, there was fresh air, it was greenery, it didn't feel like I was in Hong Kong. I felt recharged, I could come back and deal. None of the problems went away when I was on a hike, but I did something that was nice, that I enjoyed, that felt like it was feeding my soul. And so when I came back to all the problems, just more energy to deal with. Offload. Your threshold is now a bit higher. So we all have to find those things that feed our soul that we can do where we offload so that we're not close to threshold. If we suppress and we suppress and we suppress, we get to threshold very quickly. Then we get to Draupadi stage where you just like kill everyone. I don't care. You know, you that livid, you that livid. And I don't say this lightly. Draupadi had to deal with 14 years. So it's not a small amount of time. And it's not a small injustice. It wasn't someone gossiped about. Any other questions?
Quick question. Once Karna found out about who he was, did his relationship with Draupadi or his attitude towards Draupadi change? And could it be argued that it was also his wife? Because Kunti
Yes,
said
and that's what the Palace of Illusion books, the whole basis of the Palace of Illusion book, and it's a completely fictional novel. It has no basis whatsoever. It's a good read, it's very romantic, but it's got no truth in terms of philosophy or factuality. There was no way under the sun Draupadi was going to accept Karna as a husband. He was the one who screamed, "Strip her in the court." She was already saying kill them all. There's just no way you could convince Draupadi to accept Karna as a husband. Not after that game of death. Not after what she had to endure. Sure, there are women who are able to forgive the people who have raped them. Yes. I'm sure there's men as well. But usually, you're not going to marry them afterwards. It's asking too much from Draupadi. Nobody would have asked it. Yudhishthira wouldn't have even asked it. He would have made Karna king, but he would never ask that from Draupadi. Also, when she asked Shiva for the boon, she asked 5 things. She didn't ask 6 things. Which thing does he have that she doesn't already have in her 5 husbands? No difference to Draupadi whatsoever. In fact, there was no relationship with Karna and the Pandavas. Before he knew, after he knew, that book is completely fictional. And to think Draupadi could be in love with Karna is delusion. Draupadi wasn't, like highly romantic, highly sadistic, highly no, or masochistic. No. Draupadi was a very emotionally balanced woman, very intelligent, highly spiritual, completely devoted to Krishna. She's not going to go off and want to be with Karna. That book is complete fiction, complete fiction. But it's romantic, so people like it. Why people like such unrealistic things? Why romanticize something like that? Wasn't romantic? You read it? I refuse to read it. Sarve bhavantu sukhina, sarve santu niramaya, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschid dukkha bhave, asato ma satkamaya, tamaso ma jyoti Purnamada Purnamidam Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hare